Hello, welcome to the February episode of Occupy Western North Carolina Report. My name is Ann, this is Alan, and today's discussion is on health care.
Hello, Ann.
Welcome, I'm glad you could make it today.
Well, I'm glad to be here today. So, just to get started here today, we have a short little it's a video. It's actually a trailer to the documentary Fix It, and it's only about 2 minutes long. So if you'll go ahead and run that video, we'll just take a look at that. It's buffering.
Well, that's a nice picture.
I hear it. It's buffering. It's not.
It's buffering, okay. So that first part the audience could hear?
No,
They could. Okay, good.
I'm not sure if they do. Go back to V. Make sure.
We should have practiced this a little before we started. Oh well.
They should put the audio on.
What have we seen so far?
Well, that wasn't a very good idea. Technicalities do sometimes get in the way. The video Fix It is a documentary. It is actually a documentary prepared by a business association that is concerned about a lot of things in our economy, but one thing that is particularly of highest interest to them is the outrageous cost of health care for employers who are trying to do the right thing and provide health care for their employees. And Fix It shows exactly what the problem is and why it is so detrimental to American businesses.
So we were just going to see the trailer to the documentary.
We're just going to see the trailer to the documentary.
So we didn't miss but a 2-minute thing.
Yeah,
Okay,
just about
that's
2
good.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Well, so that the detrimental effects of the high cost of health care on businesses trying to provide health care for their employees is a benefit.
Yes, it's astronomical. And it's not only is it the highest cost in terms of, particularly in terms of their labor costs, it's unpredictable. From year to year, they never know what their insurance rates are going to be. And so they have no idea if they're going to be, what level of coverage they're going to be able to provide from one year to the next.
So when an employee signs up for health care, they can't say, I'm signing up for X, Y, or Z. They just have to see what it turns out to be? Or is it, does the employer have to swallow the difference?
Well, the employer, I mean, they're going to have that enrollment period each and every year.
Yeah.
Just like everybody does. That's one of the real big problems with our system is everybody has to re-enroll every year. But the employees are going to go through that same process. The employer is going to select the plans, and then they will give the employee the options, if there are any options. there may not be any options, depending upon the plan that the employer comes up with. But healthcare costs for the employer, in terms of drug benefits, can be equal to that employee's salary in terms of cost to the employer. It is killing American businesses.
Oh,
Our
gosh.
current healthcare system is. Bernie Sanders calls the medical industrial complex the tapeworm of the American economy, and it is the largest per capita a portion of our GDP is going to healthcare. That is the exception in the world today. No other wealthy nation is spending per capita what we are spending on healthcare in the United States. The sad thing about that is, even though we are paying twice what the next country is paying per capita, we do not have the same quality of outcomes. The United States is 23rd in the world in terms of life expectancy. Mexico is 24th.
Hmm.
So there are 22 other wealthy nations who are providing health care at half the cost that we are doing per capita and getting better outcomes. The other health indicator is infant mortality rates. And I don't know exactly what our ranking is, but our ranking is really, really pretty low in terms of infant mortality rates. So those two factors are what the World Health Organization uses to measure the health of any nation. And 23rd in the world is really deplorable for the wealthiest nation in the world.
So we're number 23rd according to the World Health Organization.
That's right.
In health outcomes, and we spend twice as much as any other country.
That is correct, yes.
That's pretty shocking.
That's really pretty deplorable.
That's a good word.
Yes.
That is a good word. So there's some movement afoot to have expanded and improved Medicare for all, because the Medicare model works really well, and there's people talking about expanding it to everyone.
That's right. Yes, National Improved Medicare for All, which is H.R. 676, which has been introduced into Congress for at least the last 12 years. It may have been even prior to that. John Conyers was the first one to introduce it. He is no longer in Congress, but it is still on the floor, and currently there's 104, I believe, co-sponsors for this particular bill. That's the highest number we have ever had. And so when we know there is the perfect solution out there, Medicare is a popular program. It is a program that people who have it like it. And it could be expanded to each and every person in the United States, and we wouldn't be paying a dime more than what we're paying right now. Not only are we per capita paying twice what any other nation in the world pays, in terms of public funds going to healthcare, about 50% of our per capita money is already coming from government spending. So we wouldn't even need to increase government spending all that much to cover every single man, woman, and child from conception to death, and provide not only the basic health care, but provide access to all needed health care. That would include mental health care, dental care, and palliative care, and long-term end-of-life care. And we have the money and the capacity to do it.
We do have the money and the capacity to do it.
We absolutely do.
It seems like we do. I mean, I can think of all kinds of things that we don't need to spend money on that we do. But I'd like to hear what you're going to say.
Well,
what was it you used this term? The The deficit troll. How do you pay for it?
The deficit troll.
How are you going to pay for that?
Well, we'll get to that here in a minute. But
okay.
So why do we not have it? We have a solution right there in front of us.
Yeah, we do.
Medicare for all. It's worked for 50 years, and it's worked very well. Not only do we have that example here in the United States, all of the other wealthy nations in the world, we are the only outlier who is not providing universal health care for every single one of their citizens. We're the outlier. So in other nations, it's working. So we've got examples from other nations. We have our own example of Medicare working, so we know how to do it. So the question is, why don't we have that? Well, you have a question there, money and politics.
Okay.
Well,
donations from large corporations.
I
like to call it the pharmaceutical branch of the petrochemical industry.
Absolutely. The pharmaceutical industry has 1,100 lobbyists in Washington.
1,100?
That is 2 lobbyists for each and every congressman in Washington.
They're paid positions.
They are well-paid positions.
Just to influence. So there's 2 lobbyists for every congressperson paid to influence that congressperson in favor of the pharmaceutical industry.
That's just the pharmaceutical. That's not counting the insurance lobbyists. That's just pharmaceutical lobbyists. So you can see why the pharmaceutical industry is one of the most profitable industries in our economy. They are raking in billions of dollars every single year in profits off of the backs of American people.
Who some of them are going bankrupt on medical costs.
Absolutely.
And employers can't afford to give their employees medical coverage because...
In fact, you brought up bankruptcies. It's estimated that about 64% of bankruptcies are the result of medical expenses.
64% of all bankruptcies
64%
are the result
of all bankruptcies are the result of medical expenses. So.
I'm speechless. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't have the facts and figures. I basically knew this was happening. That's why we're here.
Well, I think you're not at all unusual. I think most Americans know there is something terribly wrong with our healthcare system. But most people don't have those facts and figures. They really don't know exactly what it is. But it is the insurance and the pharmaceutical industries pumping the money into our political system that keeps us from having the healthcare system that we need and that we deserve and that we are paying for. And
so they make large donations to the campaigns,
absolutely,
to both sides, all the candidates, so no matter who wins, they have strings to pull on the winner.
Absolutely.
And then they pay these lobbyists to influence the people in Congress.
Absolutely.
Oh my.
Yes.
That's the definition of fascism.
Yes.
That a private company or a group owns the government of a nation. That's the textbook definition of fascism. That has nothing to do with Democrats or Republicans or da-da-da-da-da. It's because they donate to every candidate, no matter which party, if the candidate will accept those donations. Absolutely. And so far, most of them have.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, they're not giving all that money for nothing. They expect a lot in return.
They have strings to pull.
And they have gotten a whole lot in return.
And that's why laws like H.R. 676 do not get passed, and that's why we do not have expanded and improved Medicare for all, because those campaign donators pull those strings and say, don't you pass that law, don't you vote for that one, that will hurt my bottom line, and I won't give you any more campaign donations, and you won't be in office anymore, and you'll lose your job if you don't vote the way I want you to, if you don't keep me in business.
And So that is, of course, the root of the problem, but that isn't really the only problem. There are people out there who simply abhor big government. And so you talk about expansion of Medicare, you talk about the government being the insurer for all health care. People who just, for no other reason than the fact that it is big government, they are going to oppose that. But then there are other people who have perfectly good reasons to be concerned about it. And certainly they have questions about the merit of single payer. But the biggest problem is not those people, because in polls that have been taken, in recent polls, there is an indication that 60% of the voting population is supportive of a Medicare for all plan.
60% of the
60%.
population of the United States is pro-Medicare for all.
Absolutely. So clearly the majority of people are ready for Medicare for all.
Yes.
So I am convinced it's going to happen because the political winds have shifted.
I'm convinced it's going to happen too, because if I don't, I will cut my throat. That's what makes me sleep at night, is having a positive attitude that the good stuff that we want is worth working for and that we will achieve it. So continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. So insurance and Big Pharma, they have tremendous amounts of bucks, and they're pumping that into the system. But in terms of overall numbers of population, they're few and far between.
So that's all they have. They have bucks. They don't have the goodwill of the people.
They don't have the goodwill of the people. And they're losing more and more of that will as time goes on, because they're raising premiums and providing nothing for it. The ACA, or the Affordable Health Care Act, provided insurance for some 30 million people who did not have it prior to the act coming into place. But at the same time that it brought some insurance to these people, it left 30 million people completely and totally out in the cold without any insurance whatsoever. And that was with the mandate, which is no longer there apparently, with this latest tax bill that has been passed. Mm-hmm. But even if that tax bill had not been passed, by 2024, the expectation was that there would still be 30 million people completely without any kind of insurance.
By 2024, there would still be 30 million people.
And millions more who were completely underinsured. And they consider underinsured are people who have extremely high premiums. And in 2016, the average of the underinsured population, which is about 64% of the insured population, their average
64% of the insured population is underinsured.
And the average deductible for a single person in that 64% is $4,500 a year. $4,500 a year deductible before your insurance covers anything. Absolutely. And the average for a family is $6,000 a year.
So if you don't have that in the bank and you have to use your insurance, it's just too bad.
Yeah. If you're, what working family has $6,000 just laying there?
So they go to the emergency room. They wait until they're so sick they can't function anymore. Instead of taking care of it in time, they don't go to the doctor when they need to. They wait until they fall out of the traces, and then they go to the emergency room and have this giant bill that they can't pay.
Right.
And then the hospital has to absorb those costs, and they raise their prices on anybody who can afford to pay to cover the cost of those who can't. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yes, it is terrible. But
It's inhumane.
it's inhumane.
It's inhumane. It's that our country is allowing its population to suffer in that way when those sufferings could be alleviated. We have the answer.
Well, it weakens our nation.
It makes us much weaker, much less competitive with other nations.
Absolutely.
And
So that is the big problem that everybody knows about. Everybody knows about big pharma and insurance and how much money they're pouring into the system, and so we know that enemy. But that's really not the enemy that really concerns me. The enemy that really concerns me is that enemy from within, and that is what we call those the trolls. They are people who appear to be on our side. They will say, well, Medicare for all, this is the nuanced troll, is a very good thing, and we're really very, very supportive of it. But it's just not practical. LBJ tried to pass it. Hillary tried to get it through. Obama tried to get it through. I'm not really sure that that's totally true, but that's what the nuanced trolls will tell you. And so they couldn't do it, and so it's just an impossibility, and we can't do it. And so since we can't do it, we're going to have to settle for what we can have, such as the ACA. And we can tweak the ACA, and we can get, well, maybe another 1 million or 2 people on the ACA.
well, isn't the reason that they were unable to get that enacted the same reason that we've been talking about, because of large corporations donating money and pulling strings so that it won't happen? And so those nuanced trolls are bought?
So those nuanced trolls are, yes, those nuanced trolls are bought. And they're reporters, they're politicians, they're activists, they're all over the place, and they pretend to be on our side and say, well, yes, Medicare for all is a good idea. It's just not practical. So let's settle for what we can get. And then there's the deficit trolls. Anytime there is any kind of issue that comes up that is beneficial for people, the deficit trolls come out. What about the deficit? How are we going to pay for the deficit? How are we going to pay for Medicare for all when we have this huge deficit out there? Well, we've already talked about the cost, that we're already paying twice what every other nation does in the world.
For less results.
For less results. So that's just a no-brainer. There's plenty of money there. It's just, where is that money?
It's not allocated correctly, because if the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry were not skimming so much cream off the top, we would have more to spend on the individual person who's suffering and not going to the doctor when they need to.
Absolutely. So this is how we pay for it. It's really simple. There's 3 things that have to be done to pay for this. The first is Medicare for all. Their administrative costs are running 3%. So 87% of what we pay into Medicare, 98% of what we pay into Medicare
97%.
goes to our providers. And only 3% of that goes to the administration of Medicare for all. The insurance companies, it's more like 20% for administrative costs. So skimming off the top of everything we pay into medical bills is this middleman who offers nothing in terms of adding quality to our health care, is skimming 20% off of the top of everything we're paying into medicine.
They get 20% of every dollar we spend on health care just for their own existence.
Yes.
And they give us no benefit whatsoever.
Actually, it's probably more like 15%. The other 5% is actually going to administration
costs, yeah.
in the provider's office. So anytime you go to the doctor, who's the first thing you see there?
Right, your insurance secretary,
Your insurance secretary.
who can say what your insurance will pay for and what you'll have to pay, etc. You don't see the doctor or the nurse. You see the representative from the insurance industry, in essence. Yeah. And I've also noticed that it is the insurance company that decides whether or not you can have a surgery that the doctor may have said you need.
Absolutely.
So 20% of every dollar we spend goes to support that middleman who offers nothing.
Who offers nothing in terms of adding quality to our system.
So if we eliminated that, golly, eliminating the insurance industry, there's a lot of insurance salesmen that wouldn't like that.
There are. Yes.
They would definitely have to retrain.
They would.
They'd have to work for the government administering the Medicare for all, wouldn't they?
Yes, and we'll talk more about the unemployed people.
What's our time? So, okay, we got 5 more minutes. 4 more minutes.
Okay, so we need to wrap this up here. And so that's 2 ways that we can pay for it. Is the reduction in the administrative costs. So I guess that's one thing. Okay. And so the second way of paying for that is that Medicare for all, when everybody's under one plan, that one plan has enormous negotiating power, and we will negotiate drug prices, just like they do in the rest of the world. The rest of the world is not paying these astronomical prices for drugs that we are paying. So we're going to reduce administrative costs, we're going to reduce drug costs, and then the third way is with a progressive tax. And we'll be paying a little bit more in taxes for Medicare for all, but we will be paying no deductibles, no copays, and no out-of-pocket expenses.
For health insurance.
For health insurance. So our medical cost will decline dramatically.
Our medical costs will decline.
And our taxes will go up a little bit.
So they will offset each other.
So they will.
We'll spend so much less on medical care that the little bit more that we do spend in taxes will offset it, and we'll end up with a net increase in the amount of expendable.
We'll end up with more in our pockets.
More in our pockets.
We'll have more in our pockets, yes. And we won't have any of these unpredictable expenses that put people into bankruptcy.
And we won't have the unpredictability that we started out with, the employer being unable to offer health care as a benefit because they won't have to. Everybody will already have that benefit, and no employer will have to offer that as a benefit.
It won't be connected to your job anymore.
It'll make us much more competitive.
Make us much more competitive.
Both internationally and within this country, we can have more entrepreneurs starting their own businesses so that when they reach that point where they have X number of employees, they don't have to draw back because they can't afford health care. They can go ahead and grow their small businesses.
Absolutely.
And so we can provide local products to local people.
Absolutely.
Oh my, there's just so many implications of this. So anyway, the bottom line is, go ahead.
Well,
were saying something.
you'd ask about those who are going to become unemployed if H.R. 676
Ah.
passes. There's a provision in H.R. 676 and also in the Senate bill as well that provides for the retraining and the repositioning of everybody in that insurance and pharmaceutical industries who will lose their jobs because their jobs will become obsolete.
Who are displaced.
Many of them will. There are many nurses working in the insurance field who will go back into to practicing medicine because we'll be putting dollars into medicine rather than into administration.
We will be putting dollars into medicine instead of into administration. I really like that. This has been great. Do you have anything else to say? We got another 30 seconds.
Another 30 seconds. Well, it was great to be with you, and it has to come about.
It's going to come about. It's going to come about. So anyway, North Carolina, wethepeople.org is a good place to visit to find out how you can support getting big money out of politics, which is basically what we've been talking about today. And also, if you would like to watch this show again, you can either go to canarycoalition.org or YouTube and look up Occupy Worcester, North Carolina report. And under the Canary Coalition, it would be under Mountain Stream TV on archives. And watch us again. Occupy Worcester, North Carolina meets every second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock at night at Signature Brew, downtown Silva, and we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, thank you for watching this show. Bye.
Bye-bye.